Good parenting and money. Is it possible for the two to coexist in one Am I the Asshole story? Let's talk about it today. Sit back, relax, chuck a prawn to the Barbie, and relax. Thank you. Am I the asshole for expecting my daughter to pay me and my wife back for her Uber? So my daughter, 16 years old, went out with her friends last week, and some people my daughter doesn't like showed up. My daughter called my wife and said that she was uncomfortable and asked my wife to pick her up. My wife was in an appointment and I was at work, so my wife called her an Uber. Every time my wife or I call her an Uber, she's had to pay us back, so when my daughter got home, I asked her for the money. She asked what I was talking about and said that my wife said that she didn't have to pay us back. I asked my wife why she told our daughter she didn't have to pay us back, and she was surprised that I asked. She said she wasn't going to charge our daughter for getting out of a situation where she was uncomfortable. We got into an argument about it because Uber isn't cheap, and I don't think my daughter not wanting to be around certain people justifies us having to pay for her Uber. She took our daughter out to eat and won't talk to me, so I wanted to know if I was the asshole. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I think I might be the asshole because my wife and I are fighting about this and she won't talk to me. That's the reason why you think you're the asshole? Because your wife and you are fighting about this and she won't talk to you. You don't think your actions in this story are the reason that you're an asshole for this. Alright, man. You seem to have a lot of common sense, it would seem. So just the fact that your wife and I are fighting are like, maybe I am an asshole, but let's not think deeper than that. Just gonna go with you're the asshole. Now in the comments, MoonGirl12 says, "You're the asshole. So much. Your daughter trusts you enough to get her out of a situation where she's uncomfortable, responsible enough to ask, and you want to charge her for it. Why? Why would you essentially penalize your daughter for being open with you? Seriously, you're the asshole. Imagine the next time that she's feeling uncomfortable and suddenly she remembers that she can't come to you anymore. What kind of situation will she find herself in then? Plus, your wife wanted to come pick her up, but she was unable to do so. So it's not just your daughter wanting the ride. Your wife also wanted to get the ride for her. I imagine your wife wouldn't charge her if she wasn't in an appointment and had been able to go get her. I cannot agree enough. I'd much prefer my daughter to be safe. As adults, we know how things can escalate. What if she was assaulted because she was worried about calling for someone to get her and Ubers are expensive, quote unquote? The OP is more or less saying stay in danger because he's a Scrooge, and that is definitely you're the asshole behavior if I ever heard it. Or maybe the OP thinks she should walk the streets home alone and vulnerable just to save money. I really do hope this thread is a wake-up call for him, and I'm very glad her mum is on the ball. Yep, I'm a survivor of sexual assault. If I felt comfortable enough to call my parents to pick me up after I'd been drinking, I would have. I was afraid of getting in trouble, so I stayed at a party and was assaulted that night. Oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. Parents in my day were too trapped up in morality to be tuned into the real danger in the world. I was shocked the OP considered this behavior to be acceptable. If his daughter didn't feel comfortable, he should have moved heaven and earth to get her out of trouble. I'm seriously worried what she'll do in the future with a dad like this. She could easily end up in the same situation that you faced. I hope her mum stands firm and makes sure she knows she can call for help whenever she needs it. And Lady Tanizaki says, you're the asshole. Your desire to charge your daughter for making good choices is wrong-headed at best. You should want to encourage her to remove herself from situations that feel risky or make her uncomfortable. Charging her for it is going to discourage her from reaching out for help. Young women learn to be sensitive to people who are threatening or creepy. You know, people who go on to assault others. Her not liking these people could be because, oh, I don't know, they are hostile, dangerous, or bullying. Your daughter obviously has learned how to draw boundaries. Getting her out of there and ensuring that she's safe and reinforcing the idea that you will always help her stay safe is way more important than the cost of an Uber. Our next post is by user Brother Favorite, titled, Am I the asshole for telling my parents they're not meant to make it obvious who their favorite child is? I'm 16 female. I have a 20-month-old younger brother. We'll call him Jack, who is pretty much the light of my parents' life. I understood that when he came along, I wouldn't have my parents' undivided attention, or even much of it in the first few years of his life, but I didn't really understand how much would really change. It started when he was about 6 months old. They asked me if I would take the smaller bedroom and move Jack into mine. They have pretty valid reasons, so I did agree and took the smaller room. My room was fairly bare when it was the bigger one. It was just my bed, a bit of decoration, wardrobe, dresser, and in that room, my TV was wall-mounted. But my dad kept forgetting to wall-mount it in the new room, so it was on the dresser. I do prefer the smaller room, as it's easier to keep clean, and it's cozier. The room was kind of just the start of the whole "your brother needs more" thing. It was just kind of giving my brother snacks that I kept in the fridge or hot press for a while. Then it turned into, can we give your brother insert thing that I use regularly? Most recently, it was my TV and Chromecast. This is what kinda takes the cake for me. My brother slept in my parents' room for the first 6 months and got used to falling asleep with the TV on. Then until about a month ago, it was his iPad propped on his dresser. He ended up breaking his iPad because he's 1. He shouldn't even have one. My parents decided they were going to take my TV to make my brother sleep, so they did. Only it's not a smart TV, and I used it mainly for my Switch, PlayStation, and had a Chromecast to watch things with. So they decided to take the Chromecast too. I got pretty pissed about this. They didn't even ask this time. And when I brought it up, they said I'm saving for a new one anyways. And look, I am saving for a smaller one, but I'm a bit off still, so I'd only need to wait another few months. I asked them how they expect my brother to sleep in, I don't know, say a hotel or at a sleepover, if they don't break the habit now. They say they don't know, but they'll cross that bridge when they come to it. I eventually asked what I meant to use my PlayStation on, and they said that I can just wait until I get myself a new one. I asked about the Chromecast, same thing. I'll have to get myself a new one. No compensation. Eventually I got annoyed and said, you know, you're allowed to have favorites, but you're not meant to make it obvious who it is. They both got pretty pissed at me for implying they have a favorite child to begin with. They think I'm a huge asshole for that alone and saying I want my TV back. Am I the asshole? Yeah, I just disagree with their parenting habits though, and their backlash for that, when you've outlined that this is a terrible habit to let the kid fall into, and that this is shoddy parenting at best. Just goes to show that they truly don't care, and they really couldn't care less about you at this point. It doesn't matter how many things they can deprive you of, as long as it makes parenting their golden child easier, they will do it. I imagine you're praying for the day you turn 18 so you can just get the hell out of there, but that's not so easy in this day and age, and it kinda sucks that they're being like this. I disagree with these parents' actions and what they've brought to the table in this, so I'm gonna say not the asshole OP. Now in the comments, Lizzie says, not the asshole. And letting a baby get into the habit of falling asleep with the TV on sounds like a really bad idea. It's a terrible habit for adults. I can't imagine it's at all good for babies. Also, their argument about the larger room is bogus. Babies need less space than adults. When OP moves out for school in a few years, I would understand then, as they wouldn't be living at home full time. But not before then. I have no idea what reasons they presented to OP, but yeah, I've never heard of the baby getting the largest room. They don't need much. Maybe it was just the closer room to them and happened to be the largest room? Only thing I could see to make sense. Paper Wings 451 says, not the asshole. What teen has to buy their own TV anyway? And it sounds like your parents don't want to raise your baby brother. They just want to sit him in front of a screen so they don't have to deal with him. Yeesh. I smell an iPad kid being raised. Those kids are pretty much auto view generators for YouTube. That's how Baby Shark got 9 billion views. Well, the good thing is that you cannot monetize a channel if your channel is focused on kids. So those channels that repeat the same chapters of kids shows or kids animation with hundreds of ads in the videos aren't earning money on it. Not the asshole. The kid is 20 months old. He can't tell the difference between a TV show and a screen filled with static. He doesn't need an iPad. They should just get one of those small kitchen TVs with aerials and turn it to a channel that works. I agree with the judgment, but 20 months old is absolutely old enough to tell the difference between a TV show and static. There are plenty of Cocomelon addicted 1 to 2-year-olds who just watch it for hours a day. My 20-month-old screamed at me yesterday because I tried to put on a show that wasn't Cocomelon. I absolutely loathe Cocomelon. I wish JJ et al. Nothing but pain. Yeah, my 20-month-old is in love with Howl's Moving Castle and Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. She does not like Ponyo or other animations nearly as much. She can absolutely tell the difference and has been able to since I think 8 months old. My vote is not the asshole. OP's parents are going too far, crossing boundaries with OP and invalidating their concerns. Our next post is by user Throw342332, titled, "Am I the asshole for not taking my husband to the hospital after he lied to me?" So me and my husband have been married for 4 months. I returned to work right after we got back from our honeymoon. My husband thinks I went too soon and wanted to extend our honeymoon or plan a summer trip for us, but since we have to pay rent, electricity and internet, we needed to earn a living. I work at a restaurant right across the street. My husband would call me during work hours and complain about missing me and feeling bored. I get home by 6 p.m, so I understand how he feels, since he can't start working till September. He called me one time from work asking if I could come home to watch a movie together, but I said I was busy. He complained and then ended the call, but then called me back 30 minutes later, telling me to get home ASAP because he injured his arm and couldn't move it. I freaked out and went home quickly to find it was actually a lie to get me to skip work so I could watch the movie with him. It pissed me off. He did it again days later, saying his car broke down and I needed to come pick him up. Then I found out he lied to get me out of work so he could take me out for lunch. I spoke to him about it and told him to stop doing it, and he apologized and said he won't repeat those shameful acts. 5 days ago, he called me while I was working to tell me to come take him to the hospital because he fell from the stairs and injured his ankle. I hung up on him thinking he was lying. He texted me, but I ignored him since I had a ton of work. 20 minutes later, his brother called and was mad, saying he just took my husband to the hospital for his broken ankle and I should have responded to my husband's calls and texts. I went to the hospital and my husband was very upset. I tried to explain that I thought he was joking, but he said, "Save it. I don't want to hear about how you thought I was a liar." Then went on about how hurt he was that I didn't help him in a time of need and vulnerability. He told me to go back to work since it was so important and since I didn't want to leave it to help him out. He started a big argument over this, and I told him due to his previous lies, how was I supposed to believe him now? He said he didn't even need to tell me, and I should have known something was wrong. It's been days, and he's still upset, and asked his sister-in-law to stay to help him out. I felt horrible, and like a not supportive wife at all. Okay, someone told me that I should add this piece of information for context, and here it is. My husband suffered from mental health issues in the past year or so, hence he can't work till September. He's doing a lot better now compared to what he dealt with in the past, but still suffers from a number of symptoms, one of them being anxiety. He doesn't know anyone in the town we live in, just his brother that he sees once or twice a week. He says that he hates staying home by himself and wishes he could have me stay all the time. This is just one of those situations that you just read and it just gets worse, and I wonder if he broke his leg in order to do this to her. I genuinely wonder if he went so far as to break his leg so that he could get more attention from his wife. That's the level that I feel some people are at. That is just next level emotional manipulation. I couldn't stay with someone that did that to me, OP. And I know it might be hard, but it's like, my recommendation is leave. And I think you're not the asshole for this one. I think you're stuck with a ridiculous manipulator. Get out of there, not the asshole. Now in the comments, Antisocial Kitty says, not the asshole. Right now, you're in the shallow end of the abuse pool. You're newlyweds. If this is his starting point, playing Cassandra here, the end looks like you both homeless and you prostituting yourself out for his drugs or similar vice. He isn't going to change. You can't fix him. How much abuse are you willing to take? You need to seriously think about this. Find your line. Do it before he pushes the line too far. Your grasp on reasonable is going to slip further. It is already being compromised. Draw your own line and then hold the line come hell or high water. Good luck. Right? He sounds like the kind of person who can't stand anything to be more important than him. He'll likely only get more angry as she continues to try and have a life outside of him, and his behavior will escalate. How depends on what kind of person he is. He doesn't have to get violent to be abusive. Watch him, OP. This sounds like a huge red flag to me, and there may be more you just haven't recognized yet. I'm not going to scream to jump ship, but definitely watch him. I'm not a psychologist, and by no means am I an expert, but having had exposure to family members who are narcissists, I'm getting concerned the OP's husband might be one too. Regardless, I'm getting serious red flags for abuse. OP should get out now, before he gets worse. Not the asshole. Dump his lying ass. This pattern will destroy your current job. He's making you unreliable. She's at high risk of being terminated from her position, not to mention the sister-in-law is there now, and she has to feed a whole extra person while her husband whines all day? Not the asshole, and I'd get an annulment. I lost a job due to my ex-husband causing me to miss work. He got drunk and flipped a four-wheeler, causing him to get a driving while under influence charge, and also suffered several injuries. My grandparents who lived next door were keeping an eye on him. He somehow managed to get a bottle of Everclear, and they called me to take him back to the ER because we thought that he was suffering from a head injury. Additionally, several years ago, my husband was chainsawing cedar out on the ranch. He joked several times that he'd cut off a limb when he called me. Therefore, when he called me to tell me that he'd injured himself with the chainsaw and we needed to go to the ER, I didn't believe him. He ended up needing over 60 stitches in his leg. He never ever ever pulled anything like that ever again. Our next post is by user Forests111, titled, Am I the asshole for making my stepson choose between therapy or living with his dad after what he's done? My stepson Aaron, 17, has always been a jokester. First, his jokes were funny, but he then started using other identities to start drama in family and friends. For example, he once texted his cousin's phone with a floaty text, and his cousin's girlfriend saw it, and it got messy. He texted his uncle pretending to be his son's friend, and lied about his son being in an accident. It was awful, and I tried doing something about it, but everyone would say he's adapting. It's normal teenage behavior, he'll grow out of it. Even blamed his dad, saying he's a jokester himself, so it's a trait in his DNA. I tried to get an explanation out of him, and he'd say stuff like, dude, like, it's kind of fun. Which made no sense. My final straw was days ago when I was at work and I received a text via my pregnant wife's phone, telling me that her water broke and told me to meet her at XXX hospital. I drove for 1.5 hours and called her family, and we went there. We were shocked to know my wife never came to the hospital. I called her phone and then went home. When I got there, I found out my wife was actually napping like she does usually, and Aaron coming downstairs laughing at my face and my in-laws' faces. I yelled at him when he said he got me fooled by taking my wife's phone and texting me about her going into labor. He asked, "Oh my god, did you really drive to the frickin' hospital?" My wife said nothing, and I decided that I had it. I told him I was sick of his games, and he's got 2 options: therapy to fix his issues, or no longer living in my house. He complained about it being his dad's idea, but it was obvious blame shifting. He went upstairs, calling me names. My wife tried to calm me down, but my blood pressure, as I have a chronic disease, was up, and I was shaking. My in-laws said I was too harsh and went too far with my ultimatum. I decided to back down because I think I won't be able to take it more. I apparently made them more upset than what Aaron did and said I have to forgive him and drop it, but I couldn't. The thing is, Aaron is 100% against therapy and has a pretty bad idea of it. He associates it to his parents divorcing and is making it his hill to die on, and says no one will force him to get therapy since he thinks it's a waste of time trying to change his personality. And about his bio dad, I've discussed this behavior with him, and his response that I was being too bossy and controlling. His opinion about therapy was that I'm attempting to brainwash and change Aaron's personality and control what he says and how he behaves to get him on my side, especially since Aaron doesn't see me as a father figure to him. Of course, none of his claims are true. He even told me to my face that Aaron can do whatever he wants, whenever he pleases, and it's none of my concern. But was trying to keep communications open, otherwise I'd be accused of enforcing my own thoughts and decisions without Aaron's dad's input. Now in the comments, the Final Frontier says, "Not the asshole. Your stepson is 17, not 7, and if he doesn't know the difference between right and wrong at this age, you are well within your rights to not want to associate with him. Honestly, given the lack of parenting from his mother, I would be questioning my decision to have children with a woman who will not help or discipline her son. Too late now though, she's already pregnant. And I question OP's judgment in ever having children with someone who managed to raise this child. OP, not the asshole, this soon-to-be adult will get himself arrested for the stupid crap that he's pulling. Your ultimatum is sound and fair." And edit to add, his behavior might be stemming from jealousy of the baby. Given how immature he is, this is very likely. Plus the obvious problem of bio dad using son to stir up crap and wife and in-laws afraid to lose contact. Not the asshole. It seems though that what you've got is an in-law problem. Aaron is never going to change when all the adults around him justify his behavior. This one should have been the last straw for everyone, and yet they acted like it was just a funny joke. You upended your entire day, drove 1.5 hours one way, missed work, and instead of an apology, you were laughed at and berated. Yet here you are, being told you're wrong for not immediately bowing to his joke. Stay steadfast in your decision here, and if you're ostracized, maybe it's time to take a break and co-parent to a new child away from this environment. Maybe in-laws and mum will realize it's a problem when he starts making newborn pranks on parents who haven't slept for 2 months. Right? Hopefully mum won't think it's funny when her 17-year-old screams in the middle of the night, "The baby's not breathing!" Oof. Here I was worrying about benign things like hiding a baby or going boo right when he falls asleep after 40 minutes of rocking. Nah. Seems like this kid is looking for the "oh crap" and crushing moments. Going boo after a rocking session isn't scary enough for him. He might hide the baby though. Anyway guys, I think that's where I'm going to end today's video. If you did like it, tell me what you thought about it down in the comments below, and make sure to just interact with everyone in this community. I love each and every one of you that I get to see on a daily basis. And don't forget, if you are a Patreon subscriber, I love you. You're on the screen right now with the YouTube members as well. If you see yourself, give yourself a pat in the back. You guys help me continue this YouTube journey. You keep me going. I see you guys everywhere. I see your messages, and thank you so much for supporting me. I really love every single one of you. But with that all said, I'm going to be signing off now, guys. I hope you have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.